Welcome to Mom Talk Radio, the show that tackles topics important to you and your family. Finances, food, education, technology, and everything in between. We've got it covered on Mom Talk. Now, here's the host of the top-rated show for moms, Maria Bailey, on Mom Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Maria Bailey, and I'm always happy that you're here with me. The show today is brought to you by Pre-Mama. You can actually find Pre-Mama prenatal vitamins at your local Smoothie King. There you can get the smoothie that has the vitamins already in there, and you and your little one can enjoy all the benefits of Pre-Mama. But you can also find Pre-Mama, our show sponsor, at CVS, Target, Amazon, and other stores. So your children are probably at that point during the summer months where they're saying, Mom, I'm bored. Well, I've actually been out there looking at some of the coolest and newest toys that are under $10 that can keep your kids entertained. You might want to check out Jiggly-Doos. It is those little, the trend that's going on right now with little soft toys that you can squeeze. They're under $5. They're at Walmart, and your children can collect them. So speaking of toys, I got a preview this week of Starlink, the new hot video game that's coming out for holiday season 2018. It's really awesome. For $75, you can get everything you need. And what I love about Starlink is that it comes out from the same producers that produced Just Dance, but it's a game for kids that doesn't include guns and shooting. So it's not the kiddie game. It fills that awkward little slot where you have maybe a 10-year-old and they want to play all of the shoot 'em up gun games, video games, but you really don't want to expose them to that. You'll have to check out Starlink this holiday season. Put it on your list now, and when you see it, buy it, because it's going to be so hot. It's going to go very quickly. So speaking of hot, are you traveling to the beach this summer? If so, you want to be careful of those rip currents. The weather is really been bad on the East Coast in particular, so you want to be careful with even if the weather looks good, sometimes it can affect the rip currents in the water. And then just the other day, I was walking down the beach and I thought to myself, how many parents still allow their children to build really, really, really deep holes? Do you know how many children die each year because the holes on the beach that they're digging and putting themselves in collapse? So be careful. Nothing over a few inches deep, because that sand is very unstable. So we have a great show lined up for you today. When we return, I have Dr. Carla Fry. She's the co-author of Gratitude and Kindness, a modern parent's guide to raising children in an era of entitlement.
This is Mom Talk Radio. Mom's Little Secret. Mom Talk Radio with Maria Bailey.
I am very excited, and I should say very happy, to have Dr. Carla Fry with us. She's a clinical psychologist. She's the co-author of Gratitude and Kindness, a modern parent's guide to raising children in an era of entitlement, alongside of Dr. Lisa Ferrari, and the co-founder of CEO of Clinically Happy, a platform in which thousands of children and families have been impacted in her quest to cultivate a generation of happiness. And I'm super excited to have her with us, because we're going to explore that topic of happiness and how we can help raise the happiest generation yet. So welcome, Dr. Fry, to Mom Talk Radio.
Thank you so much, Maria. That's quite an intro.
Yes, it was. I have to ask this question because just the other day, someone said to me, so how would you define happiness for yourself? And I actually took a step back and had to think about it. And then we got into this discussion, my girlfriend and I, on whether or not there are just some people on earth who just are happiest in an unhappy situation. So this is very timely. How would you define happiness? Like, what is happiness?
Well, Although, it's simple. It's not as simple as sitting around with a smile on one's face all the time. There's definitely, we understand through looking at the research and what kind of qualities that a person lives their life with that turn out to be this definition of happiness or more happy. They definitely have more positive emotions, but they're not joyful or content all the time, but there's more of those. The people that are happiest experience more well-being in terms of their health, but also mentally, that they feel a bit better than those who aren't happy. They're grateful, but it also includes negative emotion. But they're not, a happy person isn't overwhelmed by their negative emotion, but they feel it.
So, I think this is a question that we were talking about as well.
Okay.
Do we have to teach our children how to be happy, or is it something that is one of those innate emotions that we're born with?
I think if we differentiate between the momentary happiness, that experience where there is joy, where maybe there's a giggle, right from when our kids are little bitty babies, they're showing us that they're feeling in that moment joy or pleasure. But the concept of our kids being sustainably happy, so happy enough even when they've fallen down and scraped their knee. Happy enough even when they finish that ice cream or the birthday party is over. That's a different thing, and that is what we have to teach our kids.
And so how do we do that?
Well, it's a big one. We got 17 hours worth of topic on that one, but I'll try to make it succinct. First of all, we have to show them. We have to live it. We have to take ourselves away from saying things like, I'll be happy when we go on vacation, or I'll be happier when we get that new car. Talking about and putting words right in front of them, and the feeling of being able to be content and adequate with what we have, being very attuned to talking about and showing how special interpersonal connection and relationship is and the value in that. Those are the cores, us showing that and being able to say sometimes, you know what, Mommy's sad right now because my neighbor's moving away, but I'm also really, really happy that he or she is going to have a great new adventure across the water, right? That it's not one or the other.
Right. So is it too late to teach your children how to be happy? Like, let's say they, particularly you get to the teenage years where it's very often you might catch yourself going, oh my gosh, they're so ungrateful for this, or they don't realize what they have. Is it too late to teach those lessons at that point?
It really is never too late. There is a point, depending on a teen's personality and how much they're sort of attuned to the family versus attuned to the life outside the family, their friends, etc. There is a point at which we have less influence, for sure. There's a point at which we're very likely, if we haven't really done any foundational work before this, to have less impact. But we will always, even if our kids are 22 and they've moved out, when we're around them, when we're talking to them, we always have the opportunity to lead the way, and stepping back from the comments of you should be so grateful because, or do you know what other kids have to deal with in other parts of the country or the world, because that shuts them down, right? it makes them feel bad and guilty and weird and not really particularly grateful for what they do have. So it's definitely little tiny moments, whether our kids are 4 or whether they're 24 or whether they're 14, not saying too much, because what do we have? We have a 30-second window mostly with most of our kids before they roll their eyeballs back in their head. Little tiny sound bites such as, I am so appreciating this moment right now, listening to this song with you. Awesome. And then stop talking.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I kind of had to chuckle when you said like 24, because I had 3 children in less than 20 months, and I thought like that was a hard time in my life. I think nobody warned me how difficult the young adult stage is. Like, I have a teenager, but sometimes the 20 and 21-year-olds, like, they could just drive you berserk. Like, you start questioning yourself. And nobody told me that. So you know what? You bring up a strong and important point. I mean, we know that kids' brains don't even stop developing until they're about 25, and maturation-wise, we child psychologists, we really think about adolescence as going, in terms of the true definition, of until they're close to 30. So, I mean, we've always thought about, okay, well, they turn adults when they're 18 or 19, depending on what state or province they're in. And, they're going to need us a lot less, and we're not going to need to feel as responsible for their choices, or maybe we'll be more relieved from our mom guilt at that point. But it doesn't happen that way, and they're not ready, most of them, to really successfully fly out of the nest at 20 or 21 or 22. Not really. So we only have 30 more seconds. I just want to let everyone know where they can find you. Dr. Fry, you can find her at clinicallyhappy.ca. She's way up there north of us in Canada. But clinicallyhappy.ca, and I also have a link to that on Mom Talk Radio. So thank you so much, Dr. Fry, for joining us today. And when we return, we're going to turn our attention to a mom who is doing some luxurious travel and going to tell you how you can do it too.
Mom Talk Radio, a busy mom's best friend.
So it's summer, and you're probably thinking, gosh, how could I travel somewhere with my children? And you might even be thinking, what about doing it in a luxurious way? Well, Kendra Bowmaster has 2 children, 7 and a 4-year-old, and she also writes a blog, simpleluxurioustravel.com. She's got some tips for you today in the heat of the summer and right smack in July. So welcome, Kendra.
Well, thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
So I guess that you're going to tell me that you don't have to just take, trips with cheap hotels to have some luxurious travel with your kids. You got some secrets, right?
Definitely. Yeah. No. So family travel is a hot commodity right now. Everybody's looking to kind of get away and unwind and really spend some quality time with their families outside of home life and, just trucking down the road to Grandma and Grandpa's house and meeting Grandma and Grandpa at some of these wonderful resorts that are popping up all over the place, especially in the Caribbean islands. The all-inclusive resorts that are available for families these days are top-notch. And we're also seeing a lot of families jump on cruise ships. It's not the cruises of yesteryear where you're finding gambling and things like that and no kid-friendly activities. There's really, they're like floating little islands, little paradise islands for kids of all ages, all the way from a 2-year-old to a 92-year-old. Cruise ships offer a lot for all families of all shapes and sizes. So we're seeing a big influx in that as well. And, of course, the typical Central Florida theme parks, fun ways for families to reconnect and get together there as well.
And so how do you find the deals with that travel? Because it gets to be a little expensive.
It does. It definitely gets to be expensive, especially for families. And the biggest tip for deals is Unfortunately, summer travel and when the kids are out of school are some of the most expensive times to travel because that's when everybody's traveling. So we are seeing more and more families choose to take their kids out of school or go around holidays where the kids have off maybe 1 or 2 days, but then they extend that to 3 or 4 days. And you're finding better deals with the vacation suppliers because they know not a lot of people can travel during that time, so they're trying to pull more people in with better pricing.
So why should we book now for those? Is it because the destinations are like October, November are slow months and they're offering good deals?
They can be. October, November, we're even seeing travel into December and January right now. And a lot of people are doing, instead of filling up playrooms, they're having experience presents and booking those for Christmas, holiday seasons. And that's when suppliers know that people are starting to think about that Christmas in July is not only finding, Amazon and Target retailers, but it's also with a vacation supplier. So they're ramping up their promotions and know that people are pre-planning. They're looking to do something for once the kids are in school and looking to take a break come the new year to do things as a family after all the fall craziness of sports and just the busy back to school season.
So if I was going to ask you for one suggestion of a place we might not have thought about taking our kids that you think is just all around a good deal or just that should be on our radar screen, what is it?
I would say Jamaica. I see a lot of couples go down to Jamaica, but the family scene is really booming in Jamaica as well. And it's a fairly easy island to get to, especially for a quick getaway for most of the country. And I'm from the Mid-Atlantic region, so that's definitely one of the easier places to get to from this region. But also in the Midwest and the West Coast, Jamaica is really a nice starting island destination for most families.
So I have to plug in, I love Jamaica too, and I love the beaches resort in Negril just because it's all inclusive, and when you're going abroad for the first time with your kids, it's kind of nice not to have to think about anything.
It is, and beaches, Sandals and beaches are just amazing, but Beaches Negril is in a class of its own. Beaches Turks and Caicos is amazing as well, but Beaches Negril is a little bit easier to get to, and they have such amazing activities for families, definitely on the top of the list.
I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I just want to make sure everybody knows where to find you. It's simpleluxuriestravel.com, and Kendra, she is very knowledgeable about a lot things travel, so you might want to go and spend some time there, particularly if you're thinking about already booking your travel for the fall and for spring break next year. When we return, we have Dr. Aaron White with us. He is the Senior Scientific Advisor at the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism.
Mom Talk Radio, a busy mom's best friend. Now, Maria Bailey on Mom Talk Radio.
Our next guest is going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I believe that alcohol can be a very dangerous thing in any family, whether you're abusing it or you're an underage member of the family who is drinking. Dr. Aaron White is the Senior Scientific Advisor to the Director at the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. He is very well, he got his PhD at Miami University in Ohio and has done a lot of research. His bio is like 3 pages long and very well qualified to speak on this topic. So welcome, Dr. White, to Mom Talk Radio.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So I have a few questions about underage drinking for you. And a lot of families are kind of divided on their approach when it comes to underage drinking. Some families make up these rules. Well, it's just as long as they're in my house, they can do it, or I collect the car keys, or, one glass of wine isn't going to hurt them. But really, what are the consequences of underage drinking?
Well, there can be quite a few. It's difficult to predict which underage kid who starts drinking is going to end up having trouble with alcohol later in life or get into trouble while they're young. There's really no, this isn't a black and white issue. It's very complicated. But in general, drinking, the younger we start to drink, and that includes just even having, one serving of alcohol. The earlier we have our first serving of alcohol, statistically, we are at greater risk of developing an alcohol use disorder later in life. And it's something we don't fully understand, but it's a statistical finding that keeps showing up over and over again. The earlier somebody starts drinking, the greater the odds that they'll develop a problem. And conversely, the longer we get kids to wait, particularly if they're doing healthy things instead, the less likely they are to develop a problem with alcohol at some point in their lives, and the more likely they are to be able to enjoy alcohol in moderation throughout their adult years. And so one of the main risks is just developing an alcohol use disorder with the earlier one starts. And now we know, of course, quite a bit about changes in the brain during the adolescent years. And, repeated heavy drinking during adolescence, so getting drunk, with some frequency, it's pretty clear, does alter the trajectory of normal brain development. And so what that means is that even if you start drinking when you're 15 and you stop when you're 20, you've already, been drinking through that period of time where the brain is developing so dramatically during adolescence, and you can never go back and undo that or redo it. And so, so I guess the bottom line is the longer we can get young people to wait, the better. Right. That's just the bottom line. Yeah.
So, there's some parents that say, if they don't drink and they don't go to these parties with a lot of alcohol, and then they're going to go to college and they're just going to go crazy on it. So I'd rather them drink in high school. So what I hear you saying is definitely there's a lot of reasons why not to go down that road.
Well, yes, there are lots of reasons not to go down that road. And again, because it's such a complicated issue, there's no guarantee that if you let your teenager drink at home, that they're going to be worse off, down the road than somebody who didn't get to drink at home. There's no guarantee. But statistically, kids who are allowed to drink at home, even if they're supervised by their parents, are more likely to drink heavily outside of the home. And so it seems to be one of those things where we try to send a message of moderation, and we try to protect our kids by introducing them to alcohol. But the message many kids get in that situation is, "Oh, I'm allowed to drink," and so they're more likely to drink heavily outside of the home. And again, that's a statistical phenomenon. It doesn't mean it's going to happen with every kid. So if I was going to bet, though, I would bet on the value of waiting, delaying as long as possible the first time my kid had an alcoholic beverage.
And so why do you say that the first 6 weeks of the freshman year are such a vulnerable time? And are you talking about the freshman year in college or high school?
Freshman year in college, and it's ironic we're having this conversation because I'm actually helping my son get ready to start college, and we've been having conversations. We tend to have lots of conversations around these issues anyway, but certainly now. And I think a big part of it is fairly obvious. It's the freedom that comes with starting college and learning to manage your own time and make those healthy choices for yourself. And so that's probably part of it, is just that freedom, and also ease of access that comes with that freedom. And let's be honest, college, starting anything new, particularly something like moving away from home and to college, is very anxiety-provoking. Meeting lots of new people, socializing in groups you have never socialized in before, maybe bigger groups than ever before. And one of the reinforcing effects of alcohol is that it dampens anxiety, and it can facilitate socializing. We tend to think about people using misusing substances because they produce euphoria. We're sort of still stuck in that paradigm where we think people use drugs because they make you feel good. And the reality is that people who generally are at greater risk of developing a problem, whether it be with alcohol or some other drug, is that they like it because it makes them feel better, less bad, what we call negative reinforcement. And so anyway, I think that is a big part of it, is just the freedom, the access, but also the stress and anxiety that comes with that transition.
Right. So, well, first of all, I just want to ask you, as a proud dad, I'm going to let you answer this question. So where's your son going to college?
He's going to go to Davidson. It's a small
yes, I know exactly.
North Carolina.
The only college that I didn't get accepted to. That was my number one choice when I was going to college. I know exactly where it is. That's funny. That's a great school.
It's a great little school, yeah.
So I want to back up for a second, and I just want to say this out loud to the moms. Dr. White was talking about freshman year in college, but if you have a freshman going into high school and you think that they're not going to be exposed to alcohol, you are very, 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 very wrong. And you need to go to the site collegedrinkingprevention.gov. And it doesn't have to be in college, because alcohol is being introduced as early as 8th grade in the United States. We're out of time, unfortunately, but Dr. White, I've got a link to collegedrinkingprevention.gov/college aim. So everybody can find all of the resources that are there. So thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with that college move. Take lots of garbage bags and bottles of water. And when we return, we're going to be speaking with Whitney Casares. She is a pediatrician and a mom of 2 girls. She's going to be talking about your care of your newborn and early child.
This is Mom Talk Radio. Mom's Little Secret, Mom Talk Radio with Maria Bailey.
I'm delighted to have with us Whitney Casares, and she has a lot of initials behind her name. She's an MD, an MPH, an FAAP. She's a pediatrician and a mom. Those are her 2 most important roles, and she is in Portland, Oregon. She completed her medical training at the University of Vermont and has done residency at Stanford. She also is the creator of the popular site modernmommydoc.com, where she helps parents win at parenting without losing themselves, especially in the baby and the toddler years. So welcome, Whitney, to Mom Talk Radio.
Thanks so much for having me.
So what made you venture between being a pediatrician and, your practice and having 2 kids? I mean, you're very busy. What made you want to create a website for moms as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was an aspiring doctor and a journalism major in undergrad, I really felt like there is a way that we can communicate with parents in a way that's really, really relatable, that's missing kind of in our society, that we have people who are professionals and give very, very professional advice, and we have a lot of crowdsourced information out there for young parents and for people in general, but that we're missing some of that real, raw information, but that's still really credible and reliable. And so, of course, I didn't know that I'd be doing it about babies when I was a college student. But once I had my kids and I started talking with parents in the clinic, I just found there were so many parents who were looking at me like, please tell me just like the real information. What should I do? And what was your experience? And so because of that, I started the website and tried to kind of fill that void for people. And I feel like people are really, that's where they are. They're on social media, they're on the web. And so we're missing opportunities if we're not there as health professionals as well.
Wow. That's some good stuff. And what do you think is the most popular question or topic that you get?
I get a lot of questions about newborn sleep and how to help babies sleep really well in those first few months. I think a lot of parents, especially if they're going into this slightly, later on in their life, are used to getting a lot of sleep themselves, and so that's terrifying to think about not getting as much sleep. And so even before baby comes moms, I get a lot of questions about that. And definitely afterward, I get a lot of questions about how to help babies sleep through the night or at least sleep well.
So as we were talking earlier on the show about like the sense of entitlement, and then we were actually talking about brain development as it pertains to kids and alcohol and all of that kind of thing. If we take it even further back, where we are talking about how to prepare the brain, like just like the development of the baby, what aspects of that do you think are the most important for moms to pay attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think even when moms are pregnant, even before they have their baby, they can do a lot to help their babies have the best potential possible for their development. A couple things they could do specifically. One is to eat well. So not just like to eat their vegetables and all that, but have a diverse palate, because we know that a mom, if she chooses to breastfeed, that her breast milk actually can influence the palate of a young baby. And we know that, food exploration and being kind of comfortable with a variety of foods, that's great for kids, right? Opens them up to the world of exploration. So that's one thing. The other is that our neurons are really closely tied to our baby's neurons once they come out of the womb, and probably before that too, but hard to measure that. But after they come out of the womb. So I'm talking to parents a lot about finding ways that they can get really calm and mindful when they're with their babies, so that they can kind of help, even if they need to use like visualization tools. And I talk about these tools in my book. I call it kind of like getting outside the bubble, like looking outside of yourself and looking in with you and your baby. Anytime that they can get really mindful, be in the moment with their baby, so that they have good attunement with them. Their baby is looking at them, they're looking at their baby, and those neurons are just like firing back and forth with great vibes, for lack of a better term, right? That we know that really helps actually over time to build resilience, to know that they have people that care about them and pay attention to them. And resilience is probably the number one thing we want our young kids to have.
Then you can carry that on into their toddler years, and just being really, really present with your children as you're raising them. I want to mention the website one more time, modernmommydoc.com. That's where you'll find Dr. Whitney and all of her great knowledge. We have a link to it on Mom Talk Radio, and I want to thank you so much in your busy schedule to find out and carve out some time to be on Mom Talk Radio. So thank you very much for being here today. And when we return, we're going to turn our attention to mompreneurs, one mompreneur who is doing pretty amazing things to support other moms in following their dreams of building their own business.
Mom Talk Radio, a busy mom's best friend.
And before we break, let me just tell you about Mom TV, the place that you need to go online when you want to see what we're doing here on Mom Talk Radio. We have videos for and by moms, everything that you can think of, all the subject matter that relates to a mom, everything for how to feed your child to product reviews. So if you're thinking about a stroller, go to Mom TV. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know how to prepare for back to school season, go to Mom TV, your video destination online where you can find and watch information that is relevant to you as a mom. It's a great place, and we hope you'll join us on momtv.com. I am delighted to have with us a mompreneur and life coach, Kandi Lee. She has the answers, and she's willing to share her tips with you. She is joining us today to talk a little bit about her mompreneur tips, and I'm delighted to have her with me. So you can find her at 1-11network.com. So welcome, Kandi, to Mom Talk Radio.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. I imagine that you're very busy because you run businesses, you have your children, and I'm just wondering, like, what's the number one piece of advice that you give moms who are traveling down that path and have a dream of being a mompreneur?
Well, I think it's really important to continue to follow your dreams because your kids are watching. and they're watching via osmosis. I know when I started my company, July 23rd, 2004, my daughter was still in high school, and she has her own business now, and she knows a lot of things that she would not have known if I hadn't, gone for my goals and played big and gone for it. Although nothing's more important than being a mom, they're watching and they're learning, and you're creating what's possible for them in their future.
So what about those moms that say, I'd really love to do it, but they are operating, I guess, off of fear, either fear to quit their day job and start something their own, fear of, not having the income, or the fear of not having the time. How do you get around the fear?
Well, you don't. Actually, I think you recognize that. I've had it. I still have it. I have huge goals. And fear is false evidence appearing real. So really great way to, recognize that it's part of the process if you have fear of going to the next level, and just focus on the next 100 feet, not the whole entire enchilada, but what can you do in the next 10 minutes or the next hour that's going to get you towards your goal. So fear is a part of making something happen. So I think that's important to acknowledge, that you're not going to get around it. You're just going to go right through it.
Yeah, that's, I always think of, if you're a college football fan, Urban Meyer always tells his players that you don't grow when you're in your comfort zone. And it is an opportunity to grow. So part of that growing is stopping the negative self-talk. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we're all programmed from life to think who we are. But what's interesting about that is we all have limiting beliefs, whether it's I don't trust myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, the scarcity of money, scarcity of time. So again, it's just acknowledging that, okay, those are just limiting beliefs, but it's not necessarily who you are. And to know that that's normal. So the bigger goal you have, the louder that self-talk is going to be. And before I understood this and spent 20 years in the coaching business, I used to think that something was wrong if I felt that way. Now I know that I'm getting closer to my goal. So I just say, right now I'm not feeling good enough, or I don't feel worthy, but I'm not going to let it stop me, and then just keep moving. So it is a part of the process of getting to the next layer of whatever it is that you say you want.
Right. And what about those people that are perfectionists and they're just like, okay, it's just not the right time, or I can't do it 100%, or what about those people?
Well, I'm a recovering perfectionist myself. And sometimes it's just I have to let go of control of everything and just focus on what I can control, and activity. So what is it that you can do today that's going to move you towards your next goal? So I deal with that every single day. I'm a perfectionist, and I've just really had to get over myself.
There you go. Okay, well, we have 1 minute, and I was wondering if you could give us one more tip on becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So find whatever your have-to is, whatever that is. For me, I was a have-to coach. I'm a have-to recording artist and television show producer. So if you have that have-to or that big why, when in the middle of the night when you're freaking out and having, fear attempt to control you, you've got to be committed to what it is that you have to do so that you can see through all of the stuff that you have to do to get there.
Where can people find you, Kandi, online?
Actually, you can find me everywhere at Real Kandi Lee. It's Kandilee. And the album is out on 150 worldwide retailers. It's called Dirty Little Secret.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Well, really good tips and great advice. And I, as a mompreneur and an entrepreneur that's had a business for more than 25 years, it's amazing that it's been 25 years I've been out on my own. I have never regretted one day of being able to be in control of my own destiny and the destiny of my family as well. So do it today, you guys. Go to Kandi's site and check it out. I want to thank everyone for joining me today on Mom Talk Radio. It's always great to have you here, and I look forward to talking with you again real soon. Check out our app, Mom Talk Radio. It's free, and you can follow us on Twitter at Mom Talk Radio. Have a great week, everybody.